Welcome back to Rich Dad Stockcast. I'm your host, Denney, and today we're talking about something deeper than investing strategies. We're talking about how Rich Dad experts think about money differently. Because after years around the Rich Dad community, people like Robert and Kim Kiyosaki, Andy Tanner, Kim McElroy, Tom Wheelwright, Blair Singer, and other Rich Dad advisors, you start to realize something. They don't just teach different strategies. They operate from an entirely different financial mindset. They think differently about cash flow, differently about debt, differently about taxes, differently about opportunity, risk, business, freedom. And today, Andy Tanner is going to pull back the curtain on the lessons and experiences he's had from being around some of the most influential minds in the Rich Dad world. And before we get into it, make sure you go to stockcastbonus.com, grab your free investing tools. If you want to start thinking more like an investor and less like a consumer, that's where you begin. Andy, welcome back.
There's no way this could be done in a short amount of time. There's no way. I mean, this topic is just like, this has got to wind up being a series, man. What you just said is I was thinking about all those guys. Oh, my goodness. I am the beneficiary. Well, first of all, everyone knows I'm the dumbest one. So for me, it was just candy because I got to eat and never had to cook. So it was really nice because those guys would cook and I just show up and eat as a student. I never had to cook a meal in that group. In fact, if they said, "What'd you learn from working with Andy?" they'd probably say patience.
Well played. What I, as I was thinking about all those names too, I was thinking the Avengers.
Oh, they're unbelievable.
I was thinking Avengers, the Avengers, the Marvel Avengers. Everybody's got their own little thing that they do. Andy's got his thing. He's the stock Avenger.
I don't know what adventure I would be, but I'll tell you, they are. I think you thought Avengers. I thought mutants. I thought X-Men. They're all mutants, is what I thought.
Either one works.
Oh, so good.
All right. Secret powers, stock trading, stockcastbonus.com. You put a little magic in there. You like that little full circle thing there. What do we get when we go there?
Nice segue into a little bit of an opportunity to pitch something. I pitch stuff unabashedly because if it's no good, why? If it's no good, you'd have to be embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed. Go to stockcastbonus.com. Free stuff. Download that stuff. Get to know us better. If you listen to this podcast and think, wow, this is worth listening to, we got a lot more for you. And the nice thing about the stuff there, it's more of a continuity for wherever a guy starts, kind of move him along or her. So great stuff that's free. I can feel very confident. I've never had anyone go there and download it and write me a letter say, gee, I didn't like that good, free, awesome stuff. I've never had one complaint ever on that stuff. Never. And there's a lot of people who've gone there. So join that group, join the club, and let's get you going and get a greater ratio of action to consumption of content to where the action you take has a little bit more weight than just the things you consume online. So that's the purpose.
After years being around the Rich Dad community, what's the biggest difference that you noticed on how Rich Dad experts think about money compared to the average person?
Well, that starts with Robert, and I would say the best answer to that question would be context. Robert is a master of context, and here's what he knows that a lot of people don't as a teacher and about context. He uses a fruit bowl, but I use a biblical reference. There was a parable about a sower who sowed seeds, and some of the seeds landed on stony ground. The birds ate them, so they failed. Some of them landed on weedy ground, and they got choked out, so they failed. Some of them landed on ground that was shallow, so the root system began to get down. When the sun came out, they failed. They were scorched. And because the ground was barren. And you see, the ground represents the context that allows for a seed to grow. And what most people do is they focus on the seed, which should be the investment, rather than the ground, which is the investor. And if you don't till the ground, the seed can't take root. What's funny is if you and I went and, let's say we go to the produce section, buy an apple, and we crack that baby open, and there's some seeds in there. They're probably viable unless they've been genetically modified, right? We'd have to work to screw up a seed, right? But a natural organic seed that hasn't been genetically modified, 99.9999999% chance it's good seed. It's viable. There are no mutations in it that are going to screw it up. And without exception, the failure of the seed is because of where it was planted and that it wasn't ready for the message. So, we can go to an event and speak and offer seeds. But if the contact isn't there, you're talking to a wall, throwing a stony ground. So I would say that Robert is a master of understanding that, where the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad really didn't even tell you how to invest, really. It tells you how to think about investing, really. It's accounting, how to think about it. It doesn't say go buy this or buy that. And, people like me read it and say, well, hell, I want to build real estate. Why don't you give me the address of the house to go buy and tell me how much to buy it for and just tell me what to do? That's seed thinking. It's not tilling the ground. So as investors, they see the locus of control of being internal, and they see the success of the investor being about the investor, not the investment. Contrast that with people that are in the advice culture where they're saying, hey, what's the best investment? What's the best investment? Give me the best seed. I want the best investment. Is it real estate's the best? No, Bitcoin's the best investment. No, stocks, ownership of business. Oh, what's the best investment? Where at Rich Dad, we say, how can I be a better investor? And we think success is a function of the investor, not the investment. So I would say the context of how wealthy people think and the amount of ground that's been tilled in all of their lives in different ways, I'd say context is the number one difference between how they think and, other people think.
Nice. I like that big picture thinking. Now, I want to go a little granular here and talk about some of the other experts in the community. I first want to start with Kenny McElroy. What are some of the lessons that you might have picked up through the years about real estate and leverage from him?
Well, Kenny, let me put it in priority for me. Could I talk about something that's not money with Kenny for a minute?
Yeah,
why I love him. So Kenny's older than me, probably 10 years. I don't know what it is. I don't know what our age difference is, but his kids and my kids got about 10, 12 years between them. So I got to watch him as a father raise his sons, and he has two sons. I have two sons. It's like just his two like this and my two like this, and the age difference and the whole thing. And I watched him as a father with what Josh Lannon might call a loyalty chain, and he was fiercely invested as a father, and he understood that there's a time frame of enjoyment and influence as they grow up that is a limited time frame, and he was not going to miss that at all. He was not going to. And as I watched him as how he invested in his sons, I'm like, that guy gets it. I'm going to copy that. So I would say, without getting, I'm emotional, and the advice, all those guys hate how I blubber, and so I just won't do it anymore. I don't blubber anymore. But 10 years ago, I'd probably be in tears at this moment. Kenny's wonderful and all this, but as a dad, I think that's the big influence on me. Now, no one cares about that, but I care about it, so I was going to say it. Debt and taxes. Debt is Kenny. Kenny understands how to short the dollar, what Buffett would say, shorting the dollar. And here's my lesson from Kenny compressed. I can't tell you where NVIDIA will be in 5 years. I have no idea. Probably bigger than now, I'd think, but I don't know for sure. And I don't know that Facebook would be around, because that's a replaceable technology. That's not hard to build a Facebook. That's programming. The obsolescence risk there to build a better mousetrap is pretty big, actually. That's why they had to buy Instagram, because it was going to overtake them anyway. They thought, let's buy them before they swallow us, right? But Kenny's different, because I can look at the U.S. dollar and I can say with absolute 99% confidence where it's going to be in 30 years. It's going to be lower. the U.S. dollar loses buying power. So when you short a stock, you borrow, exchange back, and return. And if you follow that idea through a financial statement, that means wealth begins with the liability column. What's the first step? Borrow. Think about that. If you're going to get wealthy, the first step was borrow, not save, not work. Borrow came first. So if you buy real estate, all of a sudden, boom, you have this thing in the liability column. Now you got money in your hand that you borrowed. Okay, that's going to lose value. So what do? I trade it for a house. So I've done the first two steps, borrow and exchange. Then what do? I got to turn it back into money so I can pay it back. How's that done? Rent. So I get money back from the rent. That's income column. And then it goes out through the expense column to be returned. So borrow, exchange, that's the balance sheet, right? Turn it back into money, income, right? Return, expense. So it hits all four of those boxes. And we could talk about statement of cash flows in a different way. But basically, that is not about real estate. You could argue that it's shorting the U.S. dollar. And if you think about a balance sheet from a net worth, that's the cash flow pattern. Let's look at the net worth on it. If you want to increase your net worth, you could increase the value of your assets, or you could decrease the value of your liabilities. So if the liability column is going to shrink, if all things remain the same for a minute, and then the liability column starts to get smaller, your net worth is larger. So you buy things that are going to increase in value. That's hard because you got to have money to do it. But you can borrow things that are going to decrease in value over time. And that's unlimited, and it doesn't take any money to borrow. It takes intelligence and creativity and financial education. So Kenny uses debt. And the debt, understanding the debt is more important, in my opinion, than, and he's got a great partner, Ross, who's just, I love Ross. Kenny needs Ross, and Ross needs Kenny. But they understand risk. Ross understands risk. He used to work in a bank and knows how to borrow, right? So it's the debt. And that's Kenny right there. I would say that's a lot. That's a short list of things I could talk about, but that would be number one for me. He knows how to short the U.S. dollar, and he also knows how to serve a lot of people because he knows how to raise capital, and he is an alchemist because let me give you another one on Kenny that I think would be great. There's an adage that says if you took the rich and you took all their money and took it from them, they'd have it back. How do you start from zero? Well, here's the thing that's crazy. The rich people don't use their own money anyway. They create systems that do not require their own cash. Let me say it again. Their entire system does not require cash to operate. It requires knowledge, discipline, but not cash. Well, he already has the knowledge and discipline. So if you took all his money away, he would still have everything he needs to run the business. So think about this. He has the same amount of money involved in his businesses as a homeless guy because money is not required. That's why he can scale, because there's not a limit. There's other limiting factors, but money isn't one of them because you can, you're borrowing. And so the fact that his system does not require money, it requires debt and equity, which is just two different types of borrowers. He gets to serve the equity people. He gets to use the debt people. The more people he serves in rent and providing housing, the more effective he becomes. So I would also add that, if I could, is that the epiphany with Kenny is, the rich invest with no money. The rich don't need money to invest. They don't invest with money. They have a system that doesn't require their own money. So if you removed all of Kenny's money, he would just be doing the exact thing he's doing now, and the money would just return. So those are two things I would say about Kenny that have been a blessing to me. I'm more of a stock guy, but I would not have the real estate that I have without what I learned from him. And, I love my real estate. I love what it's done since I met him because, those have been great investments for my family.
That's fantastic. Well, I can't wait to dig into some more stories on the other Rich Dad experts. Let's do this. Let's go to a quick
This might
break
be
here.
might be a longer thing. I told you, man, it might be a longer
I'm
deal. So
I'm
that's fine.
I'm
Cut it
buckled
up.
in. I'm ready to
All
go.
right.
This is
Okay.
great. Let's do a quick break, listener. The more that you study the rich dad world, the more you realize that these investors aren't just following strategies; they're following a completely different framework of thinking. So when we come back, Andy's going to get into some more real world lessons he's learned from the rich dad community. And don't forget, go to stockcastbonus.com, download your free resources. This is where financial education becomes practical by taking action. Stick around. We'll be right back.
So far, it's been great. I needed a source where I could really enrich my education through stocks. I didn't really have an avenue for it, and it's helped me a lot. The simplicity has really gotten me on the track to where I enjoy the learning as well as it's really solidifying in my mind. And like, they're not just trying to sell you something, they really care about the people that are in the course, and they really do care about you and your personal goals, and what you want to do is to help you and your family and whatever your goals are in life through that. So it's really been great.
All right, so welcome back to Rich Dad Stockcast, Andy. Let's get into some of the other advisors. I want to first talk about Tom Wheelwright and the influence
So
that
good.
he's had on the investors about taxes, on yourself. As I say that name, you instantly had a reaction. So when I said his name, what comes to mind for you?
Well, he's a friend and a confidant, not only because, he's acts as my, there's personal things as my tax advisor that, I would only share with him, but that goes beyond money. It's very, he and I have a very close personal friendship, and I'll tell a couple of stories. So when I first got to know Tom, my son, Zach, was probably, I don't know, 3 or 4, watching Disney movies. And we decided to go to Ruth Chris, which my son would rather have a McNugget or something, but we're going to go Ruth Chris in Salt Lake, and we're going to meet Tom for dinner. So we're in the car, and we're driving, and my son goes, "Where are we going?" I go, "Well, we're going to go." I didn't think you'd understand tax advisor, which is the proper term for Tom, but I had to kind of say, "Well, we're going to see the accountant." He goes, "What's the accountant?" I says, "Well, the accountant, he's 3 years old. The accountant makes it so Dad doesn't have to pay as much taxes." He goes, "What, like Robin Hood?" And I go, "Yeah, something like that." Because he'd seen the cartoon Robin Hood, the Disney little fox cotton. So about 3 weeks later, we're watching the tube, and President Obama gets on the tube. And my son says, "Who's that?" And I go, "That's Prince John." So we started a tradition. We go to Ruth Chris and have steaks. That's our favorite thing to do. And the best Ruth Chris in the country is in Park City because it's its own franchise. The others have a different arrangement. I think it's one of the only ones that's still its own independent. And so the quality is just better than all the other Ruth Chris's. They're up in Park City. So we do that all the time. In fact, I think it was, when was it? I got Marcy right here. When did we go see Tom? It was a week ago. So I can't remember what day of the week it was, Thursday or something. So we drive up to Park City, and, my son's 6'10" now. We've known him for a long, long time. And Tom just finished a beautiful, beautiful vacation home. I mean, it's gorgeous, on a property he acquired that looks over Jordanelle Reservoir. And it's just it's heaven on earth. So when it gets too hot in Phoenix, he can come up here and get in the cool mountains. But Tom is just, he's just, what can I say? The guy's phenomenal. When you talk about Tom, you say money-wise, here's the truth that he'll teach, and it's true. The fastest way to permanently increase your tax flow is to reduce your taxes. And that is that is true. That is the fastest way, is cut that expense down, right? Because it's required. And when you think about taxes, Robert says this, it's also true. It's your largest expense in your life. It's not your home. It's not your car. It's not those big purchases. It's all those fees and taxes stacked on, the sin taxes for your beer and cigarettes, if that's your thing. Your gasoline tax, luxury tax, hotel tax, airline tax, income tax, property tax. We don't own no properties. We rent them from the county, right? You don't pay the county the rent, and they'll put a tax lien on your house, right? Or on their house, right? And sell it at an auction because it's theirs, And why can't you sell the house? Why are you selling my house at auction? It's not your house. It's ours. We're the ones selling it. So taxes are a huge wealth killer. And he has a great book called Tax-Free Wealth. He also has a wonderful book about partnering with the government, where the government's your partner, because all the tax code is a manual of how to partner with them, and they'll incentivize you. It's not about tax cuts; it's more incentivized. Like, if you'll take this risk here and buy this oil well, we'll give you benefit in tax. If you start the bid to create jobs, we'll give you taxes. So for the risk you take, if you manage it well, the government will partner with you and reduce your taxes significantly. And I think about the cash flow quadrant, and Tom will draw 60 in the S quadrant, where I spend way too much time in still, and he'll show like a 30 or 40 in the E, and then he'll take it down to 20 for the B's, and then the I's are at 0. And the idea is how you make your money determines how you pay your taxes, whether it's royalties you're making money on, earned income, or what they call ordinary income, or dividend income, or passive income. And so the fastest way to permanently reduce your taxes, or to increase your cash flow, is reduce your taxes. And that dude is just, I have some things that I know that I can't share right now, but I'll just say, if you have any trust in me at all, that dude is world class, and he gets the phone calls that prove he is world class. And that fits because he's a class act human being. Love Tom with every cell in my body. Love him. And that's a relationship that's just ongoing. And he helped me start my business. I mean, he came up and helped me understand how important it is to start on company values and get clear on that. I mean, he's a tax advisor, and he's a friend and a mentor and a teacher, and he loved Tom.
Yeah, I love that share there. All right, let's shift gears. Let's shift to Blair Singer.
Oh man!
So there's a lot to take away from Blair as well. What has Blair taught you about?
I'm going to screw this up, and Blair, I'll apologize. I hope this doesn't offend Blair, but I have to tell us. I got to tell us. See, there's the personal stuff. How when I think him, and what I think, Kenny's a dad, Tom is a friend. You see what I mean?
That's what we want to hear.
So kind of before I do the money stuff,
yeah.
Before I do the money stuff, Robert's a teacher, and so before I do the money stuff, Robert is my teacher. Kenny, he's my exemplar father. Tom is my close friend. Right? Blair is how to live. He's an example. So I'll tell you a story about Blair, and I hope he doesn't mind. So I grew up in Salt Lake City, and my parents were LDS. My dad was a teacher of religion. I went on a Mormon mission, all that stuff. Right? It's just really, really where I grew up. And Blair, he's of the Jewish persuasion, so bar mitzvahs and stuff. And I get a text years ago, because I didn't know anything about the Jewish faith, and this is called holy envy. Professor Christopher Stendhal, late professor Christopher Stendhal from Harvard Divinity School, says leave room for holy envy, where you can look at someone else's faith and have envy and say, I could see myself in that tradition. I wish my church did something like that church, right? Holy envy is what he called it. So I get this text from Blair begging my pardon for something that he may have done. And he says, and it was so beautifully written, and that reduced me to tears. I just, Niagara. I'm like, here's this guy I hold way, way, way up here begging my pardon for something he never did that he might have done, any slight. And he said, and I called him. I says, dude, I am in shambles. How could you ever think you could have the ability to offend me? And he said, well, it's Yom Kippur, and that's what we do. It's an atoning. It's to become at one with your friends, at one with God, and we just take this. And so I said, I got holy envy for that. So I practice it every year. So I was never I've never had my bar mitzvah or anything like that. But every year I pick a bunch of people, and I asked their pardon because it was so impactful, and what a beautiful tradition we should all do. Let's set things right with each other. Let's not bicker. Let's set it right with each other. Let's forgive, forget, ask forgiveness. So Blair is just solid, man. He doesn't have any guile for being a sales guy. He's a sales trainer with no guile. Find that. Leadership, energy, selling requires energy. Now, when it comes to money, so we'll get off the story and talk about the money. If you talk about money with Kenny, he'll borrow it. If you talk about money with Tom, he'll stop paying taxes and keep more of it. If you talk about money with Blair, he'll say, go sell something. Raise capital. Go sell something. That dude can take any group of like 300 people and give them 2 days, and he won't teach you how to sell. He'll make you go sell in that, and they'll sell millions of dollars worth of stuff they never would have sold just by doing it in 2 days with Blair. I mean, he has a lot of clients in, cosmetic, like Redken, I think, is a client, and all over Asia. That guy's a rock star. You go to like Singapore, you got to have security when he takes the stage. They'll rush the stage to get his autograph. The dude's unbelievable. He's energy. He's a Buckeye. Just a great human. Endless energy. This dude takes. He has a seminar that his seminars aren't in hotel rooms all the time. He takes people up Kilimanjaro every year, and it's about helping this guy get here and never leave a guy behind, and his sons go. And how do you take a team and ascent and enjoy that summit together? The guy can do, he's a little older than me, and he can do mountain climbers all day long. His diet is specific. When he orders dinner, it's always under a criteria. I mean, the dude is a machine. So when I think of Blair, I think of exemplar. Like, boy, could I psychoneural duplicate that dude and get some of that in me? I'll take it. And he's honest too. I remember one time I have this problem, still fight it, where I'll self-deprecate a little bit beyond the humor, where I generally feel like I'm, imposter syndrome or whatever I go through all the time. Because I'm around all these awesome people, right? I'm supposed to speak next to Blair. And I remember our first trip together, I said something negative about myself, and he pulled me aside. He said, hey, we're going to do a lot of good together. If we're going to work together, we're just not doing that. We're just not telling those lies. So if we're going to work together, just get that straight. That's this code of honor standard right there. I'm not letting you talk that way because it's not true. It's like, wow, it was awesome. So Blair, when it comes to money, you want to make money, go sell something. You sell something. Sales equals income is what he would write he would write that on the thing. Tom would say taxes equals, more income. Kenny would say debt is income. And Blair would say sales equals income, right? And Robert would say financial intelligence equals income. Spirit equals income. Isn't that something?
That's
so. There you go.
It's the Avengers here. It's the Avengers. There's a different way of looking at it all, but same mission.
All right, we got it. I can't let you stop. We got to do everybody, dude. I know it's a long one, but
Garrett Sutton. What would we say there? What would we say about Garrett?
Okay, so Garrett is, my kids love to, well, first of all, my kids are younger than his kids, but his kids are mentors to my kids. Like, like Teddy, we traveled together, right? So our kids would go with us. So they would babysit's not the right word, but they would just hang out with my kids, even though there's an age difference, and Teddy's hilarious. But my kids, of all the guys they like to mimic, they get up and do an impression, it's Garrett. And my son will get up and I say, do your best, Garrett. And they'll say, we live in a very litigious society, And Garrett is about contracts. Garrett is about doing things right. Garrett is about preparation. Garrett is about learning how to put your seatbelt on before you have the accident, not after. And so, when he looks at liability and that important part of the BI triangle, which is legal, right? Where you have your cash flow and your communications and your systems and your legal, more important than the product. That's what Garrett is. Garrett's the protector. Garrett is the guy that, when a guy like me or a guy like Robert go out and, make some money and someone's going to sue us just because we've got some money, Garrett's the protector. He's the guardian. He is the protector. And just awesome. He's the guy that keeps us safe.
I love that.
Garrett. And I will cry on this one. I'll write on YouTube. I'll go Niagara Falls. His wife's an oncologist. And so when Marcy got her cancer, she was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So love those guys.
That's fantastic.
So there you go.
And I'll start tearing up if you start tearing up. So we just got to be careful.
Because I don't do that. I don't do that crap anymore.
Yeah, sure.
I just don't do that crap anymore.
Yeah, right. Now, who are we missing out of the Rich Dad experts here that we need to talk about that
Josh
comes to mind?
Lisa.
Oh, Josh and Lisa. All right, so tell us more.
They wrote the book. They're about compassionate capitalism, right? And it's just back to more people serve. Now, what they are, they're the 1-2 punch. I mean, they show how a couple are business partners and life partners and parents, and our kids are the same age. And so I've watched Jake grow up the same age as Zach, and they're both athletes and they both just kick butt. They're different kids. Jake is a ball of fire. Zach's very calculated. But Josh and Lisa, they're on mission and they serve other people. And so what they are is the embodiment. They're really like if you had the Rich Dad system of transformation, okay, and education is transformation is evidence of education. That's what I think Robert would write, right? How do you know if you've been educated? You can now do stuff you can do. You've become a butterfly, not a caterpillar anymore. You've changed. You've transformed. And Josh, he doesn't have a college degree. I think he got kicked out of high school because he's a fighter. Brutal martial artist, very tough. I've rolled with him in jiu-jitsu. I would never spar with him in punching because he'd knock me out in one punch. But they are the exemplars of people who did exactly what Rich Dad, Poor Dad was designed to do, was to take a before and after. And they are the perfect model of the before and after in terms of what transformation, what the mission was supposed to do. The mission is an elevation idea. You take people's financial well-being and you elevate it, and that's exactly what they exemplify. That is what they did, and they have a great, a fabulous business that is all about helping people. So you have this compassionate, they're social capitalists is what they are. And so they make society better. That's the name of their book, is The Social Capitalist. They make society better because of capitalism, because they do things at lower prices. They give more for less, more for less, more for less. That's ephemeralization, where you give more by doing, it takes less to give more. It's fantastic. It's a lever. And they just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And they're so kind to me. Whenever something happens, with like they like even on my Facebook page, I have my big one, but my personal one that I share with just friends, and they're always just so kind to any achievement, and they take a bullet for you, man. They're awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
One of the most perfect couples you'll ever see. Power couple, total power couple. Lisa's the one that took the lead. She was a police officer, and when they were at their bottom, Josh is. Got an alcohol issue and all this. Lisa shows up one time. He's just drunk and wakes up, and she's there in her full uniform with her gun on and saying, "Intervention time, man. We're going to rehab or you're gone." I remember I was on a cruise ship speaking with him, and I'd probably spoken, 5,000, 6,000 events, verbal gymnastics. I know how to do a speech. Josh has just told a story. I'm like, man, I'm not following that, dude. Not following that. All he has to do is tell a story. He doesn't even need to have any communication, strategies. He just gets up, tells who he is, and it just motivates you to realize he can do it. Maybe I can too. What's on you, what's in you, what's around you. They're a master of environment, and everyone's addicted to something. and they help you, unload what's on you and find out what's in you. And, environment is more powerful than will. I mean, I can go all day with the stuff these guys have taught me. These little one-liners like Rick Majerus, keep vision and stance, attack penetration. Well, those guys are the exact same way. Environment is more powerful than will. All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, this is amazing. I think we could go on and on. We have so much to tap into, but we're kind of hitting that time limit. Now, the takeaway listening to all these, everybody has the same mission but different ways of going about it, and it's absolutely amazing. But I will say this: if someone that's listening to this wants to begin thinking more like a Rich Dad expert, what's the first step they should take this week?
Buy Kim's Rich Woman, because I'm not going to let it end without her. Kim is just positivity, you just can't have her have a bad attitude. Everything is like, her voicemail is, this is Kim, leave a message, especially if it's good news, right? That's her. And she's a ball of sunshine. She's a ball of fire. She's positive. And she pulled me aside and said, Andy, you need to ephemeralize. You need to teach more people. You need to use technology. You need to create artifacts. I mean, she, of any of that group, has been my biggest, pushing me, supporting, all that. So it's not complete without talking about Kim either. So you want to do something, go read Rich Woman. And I read it, and I'm a man. Robert doesn't think I'm a man's man because I try too much, but maybe it's because I'm reading too much Rich Woman. But I'll tell you, the stuff in there, my wife is one of the strongest people I know. She's stronger than me. And my name's Andrew, which means manly, so that should mean something, I guess. But yeah, Kim is just, I just love all these people. And so if you want to do something, go read Rich Woman or buy the Cash Flow Game or move in any direction. Pick any of them. Read Tax-Free Wealth. Find the advisor. You want to do something, find the advisor that you think could move you first. If it's taxes, go get Tax-Free Wealth. If you want to do some good and you're a socialist, you don't understand, do some good, go read Social Capitalist and learn how to do it the right way, make the world better socially, but use the generalized principles of capitalism to do it, right? If you want to start a corporation and protect yourself, Garrett's got like 100 books. He's got 1 million of them. So, all of them. And me, we all have these little, mine's down here. Robert gave us each a little statue of a knight, in the battle. And, I tell jokes. Mine has, I'm the comedian. So that's what I brought. I didn't teach them very much. I learned everything, but every once in a while I could crack a joke, I guess. So they kept me around to Kenny thinks he's funny. I'm just a little bit funnier than he is, I guess. And so they keep me around to have someone compete with McElroy, I guess.
There you go. Andy, thank you so much for sharing these stories. Listener, the Rich Dad philosophy was never just about making money. It was just about changing the way how people think. And so once you start seeing money differently, you start making different decisions and eventually getting different results. And again, a big thank you to Andy Tanner for sharing these stories and lessons from inside the Rich Dad world. Now, if you want to start building the mindset and financial intelligence of real investors, go to stockcastbonus.com right now. You'll find some free tools, some resources designed to help you to think smarter and invest with confidence. And if this episode gave you value, make sure you like it, subscribe, share it with someone who's ready to think differently about money and about wealth. You're not here by accident. You're building something that most people won't. So stay smart, stay invested, and we'll see you next time.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.